and welcome to Redundant Rolling. My name is Kev, and today we're going to look at the Mutalith Vortex Beast. Today we're going to ask the question, is this the best unit that the Thousand Sons have? And the answer, I'm going to give you straight away, is absolutely yes. So let's go through it. So looking at the datasheet for the Mutalith Vortex Beast, it's very easy to see that this is an absolute generalist profile, but he's an amazing generalist. This guy is tough, he's durable, he has ranged weapons and a variety of ranged weapons for every scenario. He's also no slouch whatsoever inside melee, and he has some fantastic abilities and durability buffs that are going to bring him to the next level. So first off, going through the datasheet, movement 10, fantastic, toughness 10, save 4+, but don't worry, that can be improved upon. Wounds 13, leadership 6+, OC 4. The ranged weapons that Mutalith Vortex Beasts have are brilliant, absolutely brilliant. They help your army in so many ways. You have 3 choices. You've got a blast, which is good for taking out infantry units, range 24, attacks D6+3, ballistic skill 3 up, strength 9, AP -2, damage 2, blast. Brilliant for taking out Space Marines or other elite infantry, especially with that strength 9, AP -2. Brilliant, right? And also remembering that you're going to be able to combine this with the army rule for Thousand Sons. You can use Twist of Fate. You can also take add an extra pip of AP to these weapons as well, basically blasting through almost any armor save. And that's just on the first weapon. The third weapon, because I'm saving the best to last, is the Torrent weapon. It's alright. It's an 18-inch flamer, 2d6, no ballistic skill, obviously because it's Torrent, it hits automatically, strength 6, AP -1, damage 1. To be honest, it's nothing to write home about. It's not amazing. So the main event in the ranged attacks is the Warp Vortex Beam. This attack is why, in my opinion, you need to be looking at taking 3 of these units. Combined with the other shooting attacks, it gives you such generous profile, you're taking anything out. So let's go into the beam, the main event. 36-inch range, 1 attack, ballistic skill 3+, strength 18. You're definitely going to be wounding most vehicles here on a 3. Your AP is -3. Your damage is D6 +6. You can one-shot tanks with this, and it's devastating wounds. When I'm taking 3 of these, the Mutalith Vortex Beasts are such a risk to anything on the field. There's no way that your opponent's able to ignore them. So apart from just being an amazing generalist and good at especially the ranged attacks we've just gone into, your opponent is going to have to take them down like a distraction carnifex, if you will. So looking at the melee weapons, so the Potential Maw is 15 attacks, that's a huge amount of attacks, weapon skill 3+, strength 7, AP 0, damage 1. It's okay, you take out a guard squad with that or something. I do find it very funny actually that the ballistic skill and weapon skill of the Mutalith Vortex Beast is the same as the Space Marines he's been training all his life, but I suppose because the Mutalith Vortex Beast is made of warp spaghetti, he just seems to be very accurate. So the next of the melee weapons is the Mutalith Claws. So this is usually the one I go for, especially if I'm going into something like Terminators, or Custodies, or Marines. 5 attacks, weapon skill 3, strength 10, AP -2, damage 3. That is shredding units, right? Even Terminators are going to have a tough time holding up against that. So, as you can see, you've got a lot of options here. This thing is moving fast, it's tough, it's got brilliant ranged weapons, it's got fantastic melee weapons, right? But we're going to go into the abilities now, right? And this is where, again, the Mutalith Vortex Beast is going to start to shine. So the first thing, it's got a +5 invulnerable save. Fantastic, great, right? You're going to be stopping a bit of damage coming through with that. The next thing you have is your Mutating Vortex Aura. This is another reason to take 3 of them, and you'll understand in a second. At the end of your movement phase, roll 1d6 for each enemy unit within 6 inches of this model. On a 2 to 3, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. On a 4 to 5, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. On a 6, that unit suffers D6 mortal wounds. Each enemy unit within range of this ability must take a battle shock test. So imagine you've got more than one Mutalith Vortex Beast, right? That is within 6 inches of a unit. That unit is going to be taking a rake of mortal wounds and having to do multiple battle shock tests. It is so powerful. And Joe, to be honest, I've played games where, let's say there's maybe 1 unit or 1 or 2 units that are threatening an objective, or 1 or 2 units that are harassing the rest of my units, I move the Mutalith Vortex Beast within 6 inches of him. Just moving within range kills that unit. Then I use my shooting and my charges to take out what I really want to take out. But it's brilliant. And imagine stacking. Imagine if you were really lucky, you got 3 Mutalith Vortex Beasts, or all within 6 inches of a unit. Now you're doing 3d6 more wounds to a unit. Amazing, especially going into really high toughness stuff, like, let's say, for example, Death Guard. So the next thing is the Immaterial Flame. So this is another aura. So when a friendly Thousand Sun Psyker model is within 6 inches of this model, each time the model channels the warp, add 1 to the psychic test result. This is not cumulative with any other modifiers to the psychic test result. So what that's saying is that when you roll the third dice, right, then you're going to add +1 to that result. And that's brilliant. Brilliant, right? I know you can't stack it. You can't have 3 Mutalith Vortex Beast and add +3 to your casting roll, but it's still fantastic for those really clinch wounds, and especially in the strategy we're going to discuss in a minute, where you put these guys with Armin, which is going to give his +1 to casting the extra +1 if he has to roll the third dice. So he's a big boy. If he gets damaged, he's going to end up having to take some debuffs. So on a 1 to 4 wounds remaining, while the unit has 1 to 4 wounds remaining, each time the model makes an attack, so try 1 roll, fine, whatever, right? It's a deadly demise, d6, fine, whatever, normal enough for a unit like this, but remember I was saying he's generous and he's tough enough. Toughness 10, 13 wounds. He's got a 5 weapon vulnerable save and a 4+ save. As we all know, general armor saves don't really mean much because everything has AP. You have a feel no pain 5+. This has been clinch in so many games for me. I've had the Mutalith Vortex Beast tank insane amounts of damage and come down to like 1 wound, and the feel no pain just saves him, you know? So 100% this guy is tanky as hell. He's shooting like mad. He has a profile that's able to deal with almost any unit at range or in combat. Just moving is making him add more wounds to targets once he gets close to them. He's buffing your psychic abilities. These guys are absolute must-haves. If you're playing a game, if you don't have the models themselves, you have to proxy them. You need them in your army. They're like 170 points around, which is ridiculous for this profile. With regards to strategy, right, I just want to give you one extremely good one, right? Without going into thousands of them, this is the best, it's the simplest, right? I look at the Mutalith Vortex Beast is like, they're the dogs of Armin, okay? Why do I say that? So, when you're deploying your units, your enemy has a chance to counter what you're going to do, okay? Which means that if you put your Mutalith Vortex Beast down, he's going to take, let's say, for example, one of his main vehicles, and he's going to hide it somewhere out of line of sight so that you can't destroy it, okay? That makes perfect sense. But Armin has the ability that after both players have deployed their armies, you can select up to 3,000 Suns units from your army and redeploy them. That means that your Mutalith Vortex Beasts are going to be your 3 units you can redeploy to counter anything your opponent has set up on the board. So I had a game against Orcs, and there was, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, Gorgonaut, and my opponent had 2 of them. These things, if they get into the 1,000 Suns with melee, will just make mincemeat of them. The game's over. He set them up. He moved them away from where, or he deployed them away from where I was deploying my Mutalith Vortex Beast. Using Armin's abilities, I then got them redeployed so that the second I was in my turn, I was going to move the guys out and start shooting with their high strength beam attacks at his Gorgonaut. So now that you've got your Mutalith Vortex Beast set up in the most optimal way, this is where Armin is going to basically be your kamikaze, right? Armin's going to run out as far as he can, and he's going to cast Destiny's Ruin, right? What that's going to allow to happen is, this is part of your army rule, you're going to be able to cast this so that you can select one enemy unit within 24 inches and visible to the manifesting model until the end of the phase. Each time a 1,000 Suns model from your army makes an attack that targets that unit, reroll hit rolls of 1. If the psychic test result was 10+, you can reroll the hit roll instead. That is absolutely enormous for the beam weapon, because you are now potentially rerolling the ones, which means you're only going to fail, you're only going to miss it on a 2, or you're rerolling the whole hit roll, which really increases your chances of actually hitting, right? So you've got your Mutalith Vortex Beasts have been redeployed into the most optimal position, for example, like across from an enemy very powerful tank, something like that. Baneblade, for example. Now the game starts, Armin is going to go out, he's going to tag you with Destiny's Ruin, and then Destiny's Ruin is going to allow the beam weapon to reroll its ones or reroll all of the hit roll, which is going to allow you to destroy pretty much any major unit in the game. So I think it goes without saying, the Mutalith Vortex Beast, 10 out of 10. So that was a brief rundown of the Mutalith Vortex Beast. It's an absolute must-have for Thousand Suns. You need to bring at least 3 of them to every game where you can squeeze them in for the points. They're going to be able to take out infantry, take out hordes, they're going to be able to take out any major vehicles. Combine it with Armin, you're going to be re-rolling ones, re-rolling hits. You are going to wreck house with these. They're way too powerful for your opponent not to address them. So yes, they're the best unit in Thousand Suns. Thank you very much for your time and listening. Very much appreciated. If you could like, comment, and subscribe, it's brilliant for the channel. So thank you very much again, and bye bye.